So Director of Data at MEF. Previously I was at Mobile Squared. So 13 years of analysing, producing business messaging data, which some of you will be aware of, and now doing that at MEF. So I'm going to talk about the rise of rich mobile messaging. And what better way to do that than with a little bit of literary criticism. So I was looking for sort of Ibsen or Strindberg, couldn't really find the titles I wanted. So we'll start with The Tale of Two Cities. For those of you who aren't aware of the story, it's set in two cities, Paris and London. Paris, people take up arms, storm the Bastille, execute Louis XVI, and bloody revolution ends the status quo. In London, it's slightly different. People are a little bit more, well, they're disgruntled, but they're in more favour of gradual reform, compromise. There's no real opposition to George III, and the status quo continues. So what does this tell us? What was Dickens trying to tell us? Well, he was obviously using the monarchy here as a metaphor for SMS monopoly, wasn't he? That's what he was doing. And in France, P2P. And in London, A to P. So we've seen the P2P SMS world absolutely decimated by the OTTs, the Pole OTT areas. And in London, A to P has continued. There's been no real viable option apart from A to P. The volumes are huge, as we heard from Pedro. Everything's on A to P, but it's beginning to change. Now, apparently there was also an addendum that Dickens was going to put in to the book. I don't know if it's true. It's what I've heard. It was unpublished, obviously. I don't think anyone's seen it. Where he was of the opinion that change was also going to come to the A to P world in London. He wasn't sure what that was going to be, whether it was going to be bloody revolution or whether it was going to be a more coup de grace, where you retire an old system and bring on something newer. So what does that look like? Well, here we have the Paris bloody revolution, rise of P2P. The bottom lines here, this is from the data for the UK is from Ofcom. I always use Ofcom because they were very good. They did it both for the OTT and the A2P space. And you can see what's happened over the 12 years with P2P SMS traffic. It's fallen 76%. It's gone, absolutely gone. At the same time, rich has gone through the roof. It's grown by 1.2 trillion messages. In 10 years, gone from 68% of the P2P market to 3,615 times. Same in Sweden. This is information from the PTS. Again, P2P traffic has fallen 16.5 billion to 6.2 billion, 62% of traffic gone. And that's been taken up by OTT messaging, which has gone from 55% of P2P back in 2012 to almost 3,000 times. So that's what's happened in terms of how people, consumers, are using messaging. That's what they are doing. So the A2P world is completely different. A2P has just continued with SMS. Rich hasn't really made much of an impact, apart from, as Pedro was saying, some markets. Japan, we've got Line, Kakao, South Korea. Viber, in the markets where it's active, it's quite good as well. But a lot of this rich messaging has basically been free up until this point. It's been the WhatsApp SMEs who are not paying, they're sending out messages, and people are receiving them. I did a straw poll of my wife before I came, and she gets mostly WhatsApps from businesses where we live, in-app, and then A2P SMS as well. So the addendum to change is obviously coming. That's why we're all here. This is what we're interested in. So 2023, end of last year, rich messaging is a fraction of the A2P SMS space. less than 5%. This year, we're looking at maybe about 11% at the end of the year, but SMS and MMS has now sort of plateaued. It's beginning to fall back. And 2027, which is growing to approximately 70% of the total A2P SMS spend and volume, whichever you want to look at it. Now, these forecasts were done quite a while ago, I know, because I did them. And they were done before three things have happened. So we're beginning now to see actual traction in RCS where it's available. Scale is being driven by the use of BASIC. Didn't know about that when we were doing these forecasts. We didn't know that WhatsApp was going to change its model and embrace the A2P space, moving out of P2A communications. And we didn't know what Apple was going to do. So I'd suggest that that 4-year period is actually going to happen a lot sooner. And a lot of people are already doing RCS, think, you know, this is the year where we're going to see a bit of growth. And with WhatsApp as well, that growth will be bigger. And if Apple embraces RBM, that growth will be even bigger. So I think you can bring that forward. So do MNOs that haven't done anything yet want a coup de grace by moving into RCS? Or are they facing bloody revolution? So this is a survey we do every year. This is the 10th year we've done it. 15 countries, nearly 10,000 people surveyed. It's about everything. It's about security and fraud, but it's also about usage and what they see, what they use, what they want to use. It gives us an idea of how things are going forward. So all the information so far that we saw for A2P and P2P is up to about 2022. So how do you communicate with friends and family? WhatsApp is by far the preferred channel. So we've already got that big gap. Don't forget the gap was already huge, and it's still growing. WhatsApp is up 8%. All the growth on this chart in the green is rich, bar Snapchat. Voice is flat, but down from last year. SMS and email are falling. This is the same, but it shows you the demographics, like Pedro was mentioning earlier. Legacy channels are progressively favored by the older age groups. WhatsApp and Messenger, I suppose, are the most used, the oldest, are not far behind, but Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, progressively favored by the younger groups. If you look at the heat map up there, the legacy channels are all declining, especially in the old age groups. Richer messaging channels generally growing. How do you want to hear from brands? So again, WhatsApp is up 6% over 2022 to 24. It's by far the preferred messaging channel for A2P. Email still leads, but it's flat. WhatsApp is now second to email, but it's the leading channel. The volumes aren't there, but most people that have it want to receive messages that way. All the growth is on the richer channels. SMS, no change over 3 years. Same thing you can see with the different demographics. Email, progressively favored by the older age groups. WhatsApp, preferred to SMS in every age group, and SMS and voice not far behind. But email and voice are generally declining. Again, the same thing, especially in older age groups. SMS holding its ground, mainly due to what's happening in North America, or two, US and Canada, that we survey, and WhatsApp growing across all of the age groups. So we're seeing a common direction of travel. How do you communicate with friends and family? How do you want to hear from brands? Use of rich messaging channels is growing, and across all age groups. Use of legacy channels is either stagnating or flat, especially in the old age groups, and the same for how people want to hear from brands. So this is how do you actually hear from brands. So again, this isn't the volumes, we know where the volumes are. But most messaging is still sent over the legacy channels. Email, voice, SMS still the most widely used. But all the growth, excluding email, is on the richer chat channels and primarily WhatsApp. WhatsApp's catching up SMS and voice. And with this growth, it's likely to overtake it this year. So it's falling in line with the preferred method of contact and ready for that exponential growth that everyone's expecting. So, some more criticism. So the choice here from the nose is basically reading one of the two books here on your right. They can go with our mutual friend, RCS, or they can go with Bleak House. Bleak House is doing nothing and seeing their A2P SMS business decimated like their P2P SMS business. So with our mutual friend, we've actually seen a lot of good things coming out of it. There are great expectations. The other book you can choose. Basic is driving scale. It's moving people up the value chain, or brands up the value chain, from basic to single to conversational. In markets where it's very active, as again Pedro was saying, like India, Brazil, RCS is actually doing very well, as is WhatsApp. So here's an example from Orange Spain and what they saw with RCS and specifically the use of Basic, phase 1, bringing Basic. So no change at all in the commercial model. It's price exactly the same as SMS. Basic, 160 characters, looks like SMS, but it's got brand verification, it's got all the add-ons. RCS traffic 40 times higher than in 2022. Expected to be 100 times higher by the end of last year, which was 5% of their total A2P SMS. Now, I guess that's also 5% of the white route A2P SMS on Orange. This year, they've introduced phase 2, moving up to single messages, conversational messages. You can see here, 2024 traffic expected to be 15 times higher than last year. 33% of total A2P SMS by the end of this year. And the richer messaging within RCS, so moving out of the basic, the single, the conversational, 20% of all RCS traffic. So these are very optimistic indications of what can happen and why we'll probably see that inflection a lot sooner than 2027. So this is what we have in the Nordics. I thought I'd sort of look at something locally. The top line here is basically the ecosystem. So active handset SIMs, these are coming all from the regulators. So we've removed M2M, we've moved data only. These are people with talk and text, and data. Then for Android connections, iPhone connections. I've taken iPhone X here because if Apple does bring in RCS support in September this year, it'll probably go back to, it won't be on everything. iPhone X is about 96% of the total iOS handsets, and then you've others. On the second line, we look at what's happening with WhatsApp and RCS, and you can see in all the markets, WhatsApp penetration is actually higher than you would have with RCS. RCS, I've taken about 60% of registrations for all of the devices. Might be higher, might be lower, but 60%. WhatsApp is there. Now you move down to the next line and throw on iPhone, and now RCS has the greatest reach. So if you're speaking to brands with the announcement from Apple, this is almost getting to the same point as SMS. It's almost ubiquitous again. And in terms of RBM, the bottom, just the operators here who've signed up with Google and what that means. So Sweden, you've got 100% of that sort of 75% reach. Norway, we've got Telenor, DNA, and Telia, Icenet still not doing anything. They've got 77% of that 78%. Iceland, still not looking great. But, you know, the position is there. The market is there, the scalability is there. What you can gain from doing things with the brands, be it by basic or trying to push them straight up the chain, which hasn't happened for so many years. You know, we're trying to sell conversations and carousels, and people are still not using messaging. So that's it. That's all I've got to say. Thank you very much. Hope it's been...
So please, sir, can we have some more? There was a Dickens reference in case anybody didn't get that. So thank you, Gav. We may have time for one question. Has anybody got questions? One on here?
I had a question on
We pass it.
the picture on the preference side from the public on the preference channel and the fairly low rating on RCS, and I wonder if there could be a bias if you ask the public about the preference about the channel that they are not currently using.
On this one?
If they are not onboarded yet on RCS. So if you ask a RCS user, do you prefer it or not? Or if you ask your grandmother, what's your opinion about RCS? So might it be so that RCS and in that type of question that they see more RCS and SMS as the same thing, it's without an app. So with the low penetration of a service, if you ask the public in general, do you like it? If you have not tried it, do you know if you like it?
Exactly.
So that was a question, whether there is a bias in that.
Well, I mean, I think you know, what we're showing here was the results from the 15 market surveys put together. So, you know, in there are markets where RCS isn't very big and probably unknown. If we'd have just taken maybe India, Brazil, the RCS results would have been a lot higher. You know, where RCS is known and used, yeah, the acceptance of it and the recognition of it is obviously a lot better. But I mean, there's also been, I mean, I showed Orange Spain there with the basic, but I mean, you know, the same's happened in Brazil and even in the UK now as well, speaking to BTEE, you know, they're seeing like massive growth with brands interested in and people using. So I think it's how do you get it out into the market? And you get it out into the market by basically making it as simple as possible. And as simple as possible is maybe making it look like SMS.
I understand, but if you have not tried,
Yeah.
If you have not tried Cola Zero, you don't know if you like it.
True.
Yeah. Well done. You got a longer answer than the last time I stood with Gav with a question, because he just responded last time with I don't know.
Yeah.
So you've done well there.
It was a regulatory question. I didn't know.
I think there was a question from David, but could we pick that up maybe in the break, just for...
Are you, in the hour-long version of that, have you done the last slide for every country?
No, so this isn't the hour-long version of that. I've condensed everything into this. But yeah, you can. All of that data is available on the MEF website. So if you look at if members go to MEF website, data's all there. Maybe not all that data, but if you want it, contact me. Happy to send it out.
I want it.
Okay. Okay.
I will say, you know, since Gav joined the team, I think it's been, apart from events like this and getting together, it's, I would say, the next most interesting thing from a member's perspective. So if you haven't dug into the data, I'd urge you to have a look at that and do that and set up a meeting with Gav as needed as well. So thank you very much, Gavin. Cheers.
Okay.